I think one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is the predictions about 2020 and like the decade.
The thing about 2020 is not like the usual years. 2020 is a very special year because we are coming to the end of a 200-year era. Astrology runs in planets in cycles, and there are certain planetary cycles that are ending in the year 2020, and which means new cycles begin in 2021. So what I'm expecting is that things that we have believed in that are very earth-based. So earth is an element in astrology that deals with productivity, money. People are not going to do things because it makes money. It's something that sometimes you find people around us, we start to get a bit sick and tired of that money conversation already. People want to care more about like, yeah, okay, you study so much, but what is it doing for the society? As human consciousness shifts, you find that people want to study things or they want to get involved in projects that make a difference to groups and societies rather than what makes them money. There are various things that you should see coming up now. Certain patterns like, drilling the ground for for resources, mining. People are sick and tired of that kind of thing now. The society consciousness is going to change. And what this means is that some businesses are going to find that they don't have a place in the new world. Certain things that we study or what we thought was very important in the past no longer has a place in the new world. And what this means is a lot of people may have some difficulty adjusting, right? Because people are sick and tired of that conversation, they'll be looking for something else. Rather than how much money you have, it is more like how much influence do you have with the community? How much impact can you make to people that is not necessarily money-based? You see, when we talk about endings, you see, the thing is people are wired to think of endings as a bad thing. I don't think so. In fact, I think endings is great because then new doors open, isn't it? To me, that's even better. But what I think is a lot of people who are desperately holding on to the old way that the world operates is going to have a hard time. If you're excited and you're sort of excited about the change and growing, then yes, you will find this to be a wonderful experience. I'm doing an event on the 18th of January and it's a 2020 outlook. And I'm spending the entire afternoon explaining to the audience exactly what I see in the sky. So then we kind of need to see where human consciousness is moving. We've made it extremely no-brainer. The tickets are $27, but for that price, you can bring 2 friends. So which means each person only comes for about $9. It's really important so that people understand when the world starts to shift and you start to see it next year and the year after. So it's 2 years of like transitioning period. And for some people, shifting their job focus, you may find that bosses have new priorities. Even young people coming into the workforce have new priorities. And so, especially older people who are already in the workforce, it's going to be harder for them to transition. So that means we want people to be prepared and start preparing yourself, be in your skills or how you choose to live your life. There's a growing list of people who want to go into helping professions. I think it's a lot less about, I want to climb the corporate ladder. I think younger generation is not really looking for that anymore. Yeah, a growing number of people are learning how to use like profiling as a way of putting people in the right places, helping people deal with emotional issues. You find that quite a lot of the old ways of dealing with things like going to a therapist still has its stigma. And going to a psychiatrist or psychologist still has a stigma associated with it. But people have less issues going to, say, an astrologer because it sounds like a fun thing and it looks like a no threat kind of thing. And so one of the things that we've definitely noticed is like young people who really want to attain skills like this and integrate it with whatever it is that they're doing.
By the way, that's May Sim. She's the founder of Self-Astrology, an astrology academy in Singapore. May is legit. Not only has she been practicing astrology for 15 years, she's also properly certified with a diploma in modern astrology from the International Academy of Astrology. You're going to be very surprised. In Singapore, astrology is really popular, even and especially, according to me, among males. So popular that May could open her own astrology school in the heart of Singapore, Haji Lane.
We're looking to go upstairs, above you guys. It's called Self-Astrology.
Yes.
Oh.
15, right?
Okay, thank you.
Upstairs.
Thank you. Oh, I see the sign. Cool. Hi.
May's school has been around for 6 years now. Besides birth chart consultations,
most of our activities revolve around the school, although we do a lot of talks for companies and there are multiple ways to apply astrology. Career consultations are one of the things that we are most known for also. Most of my students at one point were mostly men, and even the girls who came in, many of them were like, I have a lot of female engineers. There were a lot of women who were like accountants, for example. These are people who are very comfortable with the idea of applying a technique and getting a clear answer. Okay, now one of the reasons why men don't mind studying is because actually I have a very structured approach to astrology. It's not intuition, we don't do crystals, there are no oils, basically no meditation, none of those ritual stuff. My students have textbooks, and there are specific words or ideas that come at each section of how we use astrology.
Convinced? Curious at least? The thing about astrology is that nobody's asking you to treat it like gospel truth.
Astrology, like what is it?
What is it? First of all, it is not a religion. So the whole question of do you believe in astrology is moot because it's not a religion. There's nothing to believe in. People talk about biology, chemistry. Astrology is the study of the positioning of planets and the significance of positions. Just like if medicine, right, your blood cell count very high, then what does it mean? It's the same thing, right? With astrology, it's a course of study. Those of you who are familiar with the birth chart, when you look at it, it simply is a map of where all the planets are. Contrary to popular belief, most astrologers do not study stars because stars don't move. The only things that do move are the positions of planets because they orbit around the sun. We also study the birth chart that is correct to your birth time because then the earth is moving. So then the specific time that you were born and the specific place in which you were born tells me something that is specific to you and you only. When we study astrology, it's mainly applying the positions of these planets to give me insight about the kind of person that you are, your attitudes towards specific areas of your life.
How does the position of the planet affect us?
I'm going to give a slightly spiritual view on this thing. Okay, so you find that most people try to use science to explain what astrology is. That's a little bit like using science to explain why your intuition works, right? The reality is there are certain archetypes that run central to humans. The planet Uranus was only discovered in the late 1700s. But Uranus in astrology represents things like technology, breakthroughs, freedom, that kind of thing. And you realize that prior to the late 1700s, those of you familiar with history, that was when France declared their independence. You find that until that moment, nobody ever thought about this concept called freedom. But yet, as a human consciousness, until the planet was discovered, we never understood that there was something called freedom. Technology started growing like crazy after the late 1700s. Then we had Industrial Revolution after that. Once Uranus was discovered, suddenly we got all scientific. Pluto was discovered in 1930, which is not that long ago. Pluto, one of the things that represents are things like psychology. So that means humans didn't even know of this concept called psychology. And now psychology is everywhere. You could not even walk into a shop without getting your psychology, like how they place things, the color that they put there. Until certain things come into our consciousness, we don't even realize that humans had this capacity for psychology.
Would you say that astrology is a field of science?
Astrology to me, it belongs in that very funny category that I put architecture in as well. If you go to a professional architect, you make sure that that fella has to do all the engineering calculations. That's the scientific part of it. You have to be factually correct, no mistakes. But then on the other hand, the greatest architect is somebody who can put art into the building. Design, color, shape. And so the same thing with an astrologer. Unless you can take all those planet signs and houses and actually tell a story, then that fella is probably never going to rise as one of the top astrologers. It is both a science and an art. I personally do not like fortune-telling based astrology. It bars people into a reality. If I go to my client and say, oh, September you're going to lose your job, and in September you really lose your job. So then good law, I'm accurate law. But how did that help you? Nothing. And then people freak out, right? So basically we sell fear. And it's like, now if you're, oh shit, I'm going to lose my job, then what can I do about it? Then I sell you a crystal law. $3,888 put in the northwest corner of your house, as if that's going to help you keep your job. It's not addressing the base issue behind why people lose their jobs in the first place. People want to know whether you zun or bei zun, you know? But zun or not, right, actually does not benefit the client. It benefits only the astrologer. I am never very focused on this concept of accuracy. It is a basic expectation that the astrologer must be accurate. It's like, you know, if you go to a doctor, you don't want your doctor to just tell you, oh, by September, your cancer will be like times 10. If the doctor can help you clear the cancer out now, that's what makes the doctor very powerful. What I like about Western astrology is that it becomes a tool that educated people who want to work on their lives can use as a way of getting control for yourself. My school is here located at 15A Bussorah Street, And we are very interested in two types of people. One are people who are interested in astrology for personal transformation and development, really get to know yourself, all your habits and all that stuff. And the other group of people we're looking for are those who are looking for career transformation, for those who are ready for a change. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys know where to find her.
Yep. Come check us out.
Thank you, May, for
Thank you
being
very
with
much.
us.
Yeah.
So we've reached the end of the episode. I've had a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun doing this episode. It was really insightful and interesting, learning a little bit more about, from what I usually knew. After I recorded this, I literally went to all my friends. I was like, guys, let me tell you what I learned. So I hope that you guys hearing this today, you've learned something from me as well. I think to sum things up, astrology is really just a tool for me personally to figure out more about myself. Whether you believe in it or not, I think the point is quite moot. It's 2020, Australia is burning, Indonesia is flooding, volcanoes are erupting, we're still on the brink of war. Astrology gives me hope. Let me live. Stay tuned for the next episode.